My name is Gloria Hayes, and I'm 78 years old. I spent 37 years as a mathematics professor at the State University, teaching calculus, linear algebra, and statistics to thousands of students. I retired with $620,000 in savings, a paid-off house worth $450,000, and a mind that's still sharp enough to solve complex equations in my head. I raised my son Marcus alone after his father died when Marcus was 7 years old. I gave that boy everything: the best schools, college tuition, a car when he graduated, even the down payment on his first house. I thought we had a good relationship. Which is why what happened 4 weeks ago in my kitchen left me stunned, but also very, very alert. Marcus had stopped by for what he said was a casual visit. He sat at my kitchen table drinking the coffee I'd made him, and then he started talking. But the way he talked, it was different. Strange. "Mom, I need to talk to you about something important." He was speaking slowly, very slowly, like he was talking to a small child or someone who couldn't understand normal conversation. Each word was drawn out, carefully pronounced, with long pauses between them. "Marcus, I can hear you just fine. You don't need to speak so slowly." "Mom, I just want to make sure you understand this is very important." I sat across from him, holding my own coffee cup, and watched as he continued speaking in that strange, slow, deliberate way. Like I was confused, like I couldn't comprehend what he was saying at normal speed. "Mom, your house is getting too big for you. You're 78 years old. It's time to think about downsizing." "I understand what you're saying, Marcus. You can speak normally." But he didn't. He kept talking slowly, as if I was confused. And as I sat there listening to him explain, word by slow word, why I should sell my house and move to a smaller place, I realized something. This wasn't about concern. This was a technique, a strategy. Marcus was deliberately speaking to me like I was impaired, like I couldn't understand normal conversation. He was treating me like someone with cognitive decline. And then he said something that made everything clear. "Mom, I've already looked at some nice senior apartments for you, small, easy to manage, and Mom, after you sell this house, there will be money left over. I was thinking I could help you manage that money, invest it properly. You don't need to worry about complicated financial things anymore." My son spoke slowly, as if I was confused, and I let him. I let him continue talking in that patronizing, slow way. I let him explain his plan to sell my house and help me manage the proceeds. I let him treat me like I was too impaired to understand what he was really saying. Because while he was speaking slowly, thinking I was confused, I was thinking very clearly. And what I was thinking was this: my son is building a narrative. He's creating a story where his elderly mother is declining, where she can't understand normal conversation, where she needs help with complicated financial things. He's documenting this moment in his mind, probably planning to tell others, "I have to speak so slowly to Mom now. She can't follow normal conversation. She's really declining." My son spoke slowly, as if I was confused. I let him, because letting someone underestimate you is sometimes the smartest strategy. And Marcus was about to learn a very expensive lesson about underestimating a woman who taught advanced mathematics for 37 years. But before I tell you what I did after Marcus finished his slow, patronizing explanation, before I reveal what I discovered about his real motives and his real financial situation, I need you to do something for me right now. Hit that subscribe button. Do it now. Then smash that like button, because this story is going to show you why speaking slowly to someone who's actually sharp is a catastrophic mistake. Turn on those notifications, that bell icon, because you need to hear what happened when I let my son think I was too confused to understand normal speech, while I was actually several steps ahead of him. And drop a comment telling me where you're watching from. What city? What state? What country? I want to know who's here with me today. Because what I discovered when my son spoke slowly to me, as if I was confused, about what he was planning and what I already knew, it's going to shock you. And it taught me that sometimes the best response to being talked down to is to stay quiet, act confused, and gather information while they think you don't understand. Now let me take you back to the beginning. Let me tell you about my relationship with Marcus, about the warning signs I'd noticed, and about how I came to be sitting in my kitchen, letting my son speak to me like I was impaired while I calculated exactly what he was trying to do. To understand what happened, you need to understand my life and how I came to be the person I am. I grew up poor in rural Mississippi. My parents were sharecroppers who never got past 8th grade, but they valued education, and when they saw I was good with numbers, they encouraged me. I won a scholarship to college, the first person in my family to go. I studied mathematics, fell in love with the beauty of equations and proofs. I met my husband, David Hayes, in graduate school. He was studying engineering. We got married young, both 23, both poor students living on scholarships and part-time jobs. I got my PhD in mathematics when I was 26, got hired as an assistant professor at the state university. David got a job as a civil engineer. We were building good lives, making decent money for the first time ever. Marcus was born when I was 30. He was our only child. We'd wanted more, but it didn't happen. We poured all our love and resources into raising Marcus. When Marcus was 7, David died. A car accident, sudden and devastating. I was left alone with a 7-year-old son, a tenure-track professor job, and grief that felt like it would swallow me whole. But I kept going. I worked. I raised Marcus. I got tenure. I taught my classes, published my research, served on committees, and I made sure Marcus had everything he needed. I sent Marcus to good schools, paid for private tutors when he struggled with subjects, paid for sports leagues, music lessons, summer camps. When he got into college, I paid his tuition, all 4 years, no loans. When he graduated, I bought him a car. When he got married to his wife Lauren, I gave them $40,000 as a down payment on their first house. I thought I was being a good mother, giving my son opportunities I never had, making sure he didn't start adult life with debt the way I did. Marcus became a business consultant. Lauren worked in human resources. They seemed to be doing well financially, nice house in a good neighborhood, new cars, regular vacations. But about 3 years ago, I started noticing things, little things that didn't quite add up. Marcus would mention money problems in passing. Business has been slow. Lauren's company is restructuring. Her job might not be secure. The mortgage payment went up with the property tax increase. He started asking to borrow money, small amounts at first. "Mom, can you lend me $3,000, just until my next big client contract comes through?" I lent it. He never paid it back. "Mom, we're short on the mortgage this month. Can you help with $5,000? I helped. Again, no repayment. Over 3 years, I lent Marcus and Lauren about $45,000. They always promised to pay me back. They never did. Finally, about 6 months ago, I said no. "Marcus, you already owe me $45,000. I can't keep lending you money you never repay." "Mom, we're going to pay you back. We're just going through a rough patch. Business will pick up soon." "You've been going through a rough patch for 3 years. Marcus, you need to cut your expenses and live within your means." He was upset. "I can't believe you're being so selfish. You have plenty of money. You're just sitting on it while your own son struggles." "I'm not sitting on it. It's my retirement savings. Marcus, I worked 37 years for that money." "You're 78 years old. How much longer do you need retirement savings? You should be helping your family." That conversation marked a shift. After that, Marcus started focusing on my age in a way he never had before. "Mom, you're getting older. Have you thought about what happens if you get sick? Who would take care of you?" "I'm healthy, Marcus. I see my doctor regularly. I'm fine." "But this house is so big. Don't you think it's too much for you to maintain?" "I like my house. I've lived here for 40 years. "But the stairs." "Mom, what if you fall? What if you can't manage the upkeep? I have a ranch-style house. There are no stairs, and I maintain it just fine with regular contractors and lawn service. Then, about 2 months ago, Marcus started doing something new. He started speaking to me differently. Slowly, carefully, like I was a child or someone who couldn't understand normal conversation. At first, I thought maybe I was imagining it, but it kept happening. Every conversation, he'd slow down his speech, use simple words, repeat things multiple times. Mom, do you understand what I'm saying? Yes, Marcus, I understand perfectly. You don't need to speak so slowly. I just want to make sure you follow what I'm telling you. I started paying closer attention, and I realized Marcus was building a narrative. He was creating a story where his mother was declining cognitively, where she couldn't understand normal conversation, where she needed help with basic things. I also noticed he was doing this more when other people were around, when Lauren was present, when they visited with their friends. He'd speak slowly to me in front of others, creating witnesses to my supposed confusion. Mom, this is my friend Tom. Can you say hello to Tom? Like I was a toddler being prompted to greet someone. I'm a mathematician. I taught complex subjects to university students for nearly 4 decades. My mind is trained to see patterns, to recognize when something doesn't add up. And this didn't add up. Marcus's sudden focus on my age, his slow speech, his questions about whether I understood things, the way he did this in front of others. He was building a case, creating evidence of my supposed cognitive decline. Why? So 3 weeks ago, I did something Marcus didn't know about. I hired a private investigator to look into Marcus and Lauren's financial situation. What the investigator found was alarming. Marcus and Lauren weren't just going through a rough patch. They were drowning in debt. Over $240,000 in credit card balances, personal loans, and business debt. Their mortgage was in arrears, 3 months behind. Marcus's business consulting work had almost completely dried up. He'd had only 2 small clients in the past year. Lauren had been laid off from her HR job 8 months ago and hadn't found new work. They were facing foreclosure, bankruptcy, financial disaster. And they were looking at my assets as their solution. My house worth $450,000, my savings of $620,000, over $1 million that could solve all their problems. But I wouldn't voluntarily give them that money. I'd already said no to more loans, so they needed another approach. If they could convince people I was cognitively declining, if they could build a case that I couldn't manage my own affairs, they could pursue legal options to gain control of my assets. Conservatorship, power of attorney, some legal mechanism to override my wishes and access my money. The slow speech was part of that strategy. Marcus was speaking to me like I was confused so he could later say, I have to speak very slowly to my mother now. She can't understand normal conversation. She's really declining. She needs help managing her affairs. 4 weeks ago, when Marcus came over and spoke slowly to me about selling my house and letting him help manage the money, I understood exactly what he was doing. My son spoke slowly, as if I was confused, and I let him. I didn't interrupt. I didn't correct him. I didn't tell him to speak normally. I just sat there, sipping my coffee, letting him think his strategy was working. Mom, do you understand what I'm saying about selling the house? I think so, Marcus. You want me to sell my house? Yes, good Mom, yes, I want you to sell the house, move to a smaller place easier for you. And what happens to the money from selling the house? I'll help you manage it, invest it. You don't need to worry about complicated money things. Oh, okay, that sounds nice. I made my voice uncertain, a little confused, like maybe I didn't quite follow what he was saying, like I needed him to speak slowly. Marcus looked relieved, satisfied, like his approach was working. Good Mom, I'm glad you understand. I'll start looking at senior apartments for you, okay? Okay, Marcus. After he left, I sat in my kitchen thinking about what had just happened. My son had spoken to me like I was impaired. He'd treated me like I couldn't understand normal speech, and I'd let him think it was working. Because while Marcus was speaking slowly, thinking I was confused, I was thinking very clearly. I was calculating, planning, preparing my response. I called my attorney the next day. George, my son is building a narrative that I'm cognitively declining. He's speaking to me like I'm confused. I think he's planning to try to gain legal control of my assets. I need to protect myself. Gloria, what do you want to do? I want comprehensive cognitive testing. I want documentation that I'm completely competent. I want my estate documents reviewed and strengthened. And George, I want to be ready for whatever Marcus is planning. Over the next 2 weeks, I did everything necessary to protect myself. I had a full cognitive evaluation by a neuropsychologist. The results showed I was functioning at the 98th percentile for my age. My mathematical reasoning was particularly strong. No surprise there. I updated my will, my healthcare directives, my power of attorney documents. I created a living trust to protect my house and assets. I made sure everything was legally airtight. And I did one more thing. I started documenting every interaction with Marcus. Every time he spoke slowly to me. Every time he suggested I couldn't manage my own affairs. Every time he treated me like I was impaired. I kept a journal. I recorded some of our phone conversations. I gathered evidence. Because I knew what was coming. Marcus wasn't going to give up. He was going to escalate. And when he did, I'd be ready. 2 weeks after that kitchen conversation, Marcus called me. And once again, he spoke slowly. Mom, I found a really nice apartment for you. Can I bring you to see it? An apartment. Yes, remember we talked about you selling your house and moving somewhere smaller. Oh, yes, I remember. Good, so can I pick you up tomorrow and show you the apartment? Okay, Marcus. I went along with it. Let him take me to see a small one-bedroom apartment in a senior living complex. The rent was $2,800 a month. The apartment was tiny, maybe 600 square feet. Marcus walked me through it slowly, pointing at things. See, Mom, this is the kitchen, small, but you don't need a big kitchen anymore, and this is the bedroom, just one bedroom, because you live alone. It's very small, Marcus. Yes, small is good, easy to manage, and Mom, they have activities here, bingo and craft classes. You'd like that. I'm a retired mathematics professor. I spent my career teaching university students advanced calculus, and my son was suggesting I'd enjoy bingo and craft classes like that was an appropriate intellectual engagement for me. What do you think, Mom? Do you like it? It's nice, Marcus. Good, so you'll move here and sell your house. I need to think about it. Marcus looked frustrated, like he'd expected me to just agree immediately. But he controlled himself and spoke slowly again. Okay, Mom, you think about it, but don't think too long. This apartment won't be available forever. On the drive back to my house, Marcus tried a different approach. Mom, I'm really worried about yous living alone in that big house. What if something happens and no one is there to help? I have neighbors, Marcus, and I have my phone. But Mom, what if you forget to calls for help? What if you get confused? I'm not confused, Marcus. I know you think that, but Mom, sometimes people don't realize they're getting confused. That's why family needs to step in and help. And there it was, the setup. Marcus was positioning himself as the concerned son who needed to step in and help because his mother was too confused to realize she needed help. My son spoke slowly, as if I was confused. I let him, because I knew exactly what he was doing, and I was gathering evidence of every word. Before I continue this story, kindly subscribe, like, turn on the notification bell, and tell me in the comments where you're watching from. 3 days after Marcus showed me the tiny senior apartment, I received a phone call from a woman named Dr. Patricia Coleman. She identified herself as a geriatric care specialist. "Mrs. Hayes, your son Marcus contacted me. He's very concerned about your ability to live independently. He's requested a comprehensive home safety assessment and cognitive screening." I didn't request any assessment. "No, your son did. Mrs. Hayes, he's quite worried. He mentioned you're having difficulty understanding conversations, that you're confused about your living situation, and that you may not be safe living alone in your current home." "Dr. Coleman, I'm not having any difficulty understanding conversations. I'm not confused, and I'm perfectly safe in my home." "Mrs. Hayes, sometimes individuals experiencing cognitive decline aren't aware of their limitations. That's why family members often notice problems first. Your son loves you and wants to ensure you're safe." "Dr. Coleman, I appreciate the call, but I don't need or want an assessment. I'm managing perfectly well." "Mrs. Hayes, your son has already paid for the assessment. We just need to schedule a time." "I'm declining the assessment. Please don't contact me again." I hung up, then immediately called my attorney George. "George, Marcus hired a geriatric specialist to assess me. He told them I'm confused and can't understand conversations. He's escalating." "Did you agree to the assessment?" "No, I refused it. But George, this is exactly what I predicted. Marcus is building a case that I'm incompetent. He's getting professionals involved, telling them I'm declining." "Gloria, you have strong documentation showing you're completely competent, but we need to be proactive. Let me send Marcus a letter from my office on legal letterhead, making clear that you're aware of his attempts and that you have documentation of your full capacity." George drafted the letter and sent it that afternoon. "Dear Mr. Hayes, I represent your mother, Gloria Hayes, in all legal matters. It has come to Mrs. Hayes's attention that you have been contacting medical professionals and making false claims about her cognitive state. Please be advised that Mrs. Hayes is fully competent. She recently underwent comprehensive neuropsychological evaluation, scoring in the 98th percentile for her age group. She manages her own finances, maintains her home, and makes sound decisions about all aspects of her life. Mrs. Hayes is aware that you have suggested she sell her home and allow you to manage the proceeds. She has declined to do so. This is her right as a competent adult. Any further attempts to have Mrs. Hayes declared incompetent, to interfere in her affairs, or to spread false information about her cognitive state will be considered harassment and elder abuse. Mrs. Hayes will pursue all available legal remedies to protect herself. Sincerely, George Martin-esque. Marcus called me 2 hours after receiving the letter, and this time he didn't speak slowly. He was angry. "Mom, what is this? You sent your attorney after me. I'm your son. You hired a doctor to assess me based on lies about my cognitive state, Marcus. You told them I'm confused and can't understand conversations. None of that is true. I'm trying to help you. Mom, you don't see how much you've declined." "I haven't declined. Marcus, I had a comprehensive neuropsychological evaluation 3 weeks ago. I scored in the 98th percentile. There's nothing wrong with my cognitive function." You had an evaluation. When? Why didn't you tell me?" "Because I knew what you were planning. Marcus, you've been speaking to me slowly, like I'm impaired. You've been suggesting I can't manage my own affairs. You're building a false narrative about my cognitive state. I wanted documentation of the truth before you could spread more lies." Marcus was silent for a moment. Then his voice changed, became softer, more manipulative. "Mom, I think the evaluation might be wrong. Maybe the doctor didn't test you properly. Because I've seen you confused. I've watched you struggle to understand simple things." "Give me one example." "Last week, when I explained about the apartment, you seemed so confused. You couldn't follow what I was saying." I followed perfectly, Marcus. You spoke to me like I was a child, using slow, simple language, and I understood every word. I just didn't agree with your plan to sell my house and let you manage the money. See, you're confused right now. You think I want to manage your money. You said, and I quote, "After you sell the house, there will be money left over." I was thinking I could help you manage that money, invest it properly. You don't need to worry about complicated financial things anymore. Marcus, I remember exactly what you said. Well, yes, but I meant I'd help you. You meant you'd control it. Marcus, I know about your financial situation. I know you and Lauren are $240,000 in debt. I know you're facing foreclosure. I know you haven't had consistent work in over a year. You don't want to help me manage my money. You want access to my money to solve your own financial problems. There was a long silence. When Marcus spoke again, his voice was cold. You had me investigated. Mom, what kind of person investigates their own son? The kind of person whose son is trying to have her declared incompetent so he can steal her assets. Marcus, you started this when you began speaking to me like I was confused. When you began building a false case of cognitive decline. I'm just protecting myself from what you're planning. I'm not planning anything. I'm worried about my mother. If you were worried about me, you wouldn't be lying to doctors about my cognitive state. You wouldn't be speaking to me like I'm impaired when I'm not. You wouldn't be trying to convince me to sell my house so you can manage the money. Marcus, this isn't concern. This is financial manipulation. You're going to regret this, Mom. When you actually do start declining, when you actually do need help, don't come crying to me. I tried to help you and you threw it back in my face. He hung up, and I sat in my house, sad but determined. Marcus wasn't going to stop. George's letter hadn't deterred him. It had just made him angrier and more desperate. 1 week later, I started receiving phone calls from family members and friends. People I'd known for years, colleagues from the university, neighbors, church members. Gloria, Marcus called me. He said you're having serious memory problems and you're refusing help. Is everything okay? Gloria, your son reached out on social media. He posted that you're experiencing cognitive decline and he's trying to get you proper care, but you're being resistant. What's going on? Gloria, Marcus told me you're confused about your living situation, that you think you can still live alone, but you're not safe. He asked me to talk to you about accepting help. Marcus was spreading lies about me to everyone I knew, creating a narrative that I was declining, that I needed help, that I was too confused to recognize my own limitations. I called each person and explained the truth, that I was perfectly competent, that I'd had recent cognitive evaluations showing no impairment, and that Marcus was spreading false information because I wouldn't give him access to my assets. Some people believed me immediately. Others seemed uncertain, as if they couldn't decide whether to believe me or Marcus. And that was exactly what Marcus wanted, to plant enough doubt that people would question my competence. I documented every call, every lie Marcus told, every person he contacted. I was building a file of evidence showing his systematic campaign to undermine my credibility. Then, 2 weeks after George's letter, something happened that crossed a clear line. I came home from grocery shopping to find Marcus in my house. He'd used the key I'd given him years ago for emergencies. He was in my home office, going through my filing cabinet. Marcus, what are you doing here? He jumped, looking guilty. Oh, Mom, I stopped by to check on you and you weren't home. I got worried, so I let myself in to make sure you were okay. I was grocery shopping. Marcus, why are you going through my files? I was looking for your insurance information. I wanted to make sure your policies were up to date. My insurance is none of your business. Marcus, you had no right to come into my house without permission and go through my private documents. I have a key. You gave me a key. For emergencies. This isn't an emergency. This is you snooping through my financial records. I looked at what he'd been examining. My investment account statements, my bank records, my property tax documents. Marcus had been inventorying my assets. Get out of my house, Marcus. Now. Mom. You're overreacting. I was just trying to help. Get out and leave your key. You can't take away my key. What if there's an emergency and you need help? I said leave the key. Marcus, get out of my house or I'm calling the police. Marcus looked at me with such anger in his eyes, but he put the key on the kitchen counter and left. I immediately called a locksmith and had all my locks changed. Then I called George. Marcus broke into my house and was going through my financial records. I caught him in my office with my investment statements. George, he was cataloging my assets. That's a serious violation. Gloria, we need to document this with a police report, and I think it's time to consider a restraining order. A restraining order against my own son. He broke into your house. He's spreading false information about your cognitive state. He's contacting professionals and family members with lies. He's harassing you. You need legal protection. I filed a police report about the break-in. The officer who took the report was sympathetic. Mrs. Hayes, even though he had a key, if he entered without your permission to access your private documents, that's potentially criminal trespass. Do you want to press charges? Not yet, but I want this documented. I understand. Mrs. Hayes, if your son continues this behavior, you should consider a restraining order. This kind of family financial exploitation often escalates. 2 days later, Marcus tried a different approach. He called me, and when he spoke, he was using that slow, careful voice again. Mom, I'm sorry about the other day. I shouldn't have let myself into your house. I was just worried about you. He was back to speaking slowly, as if I was confused. Like the angry confrontation had never happened. Like he was resetting to his strategy of treating me as cognitively impaired. Marcus, you can speak normally. I can understand you. I know you think that, Mom, but I need to speak clearly so you follow what I'm saying. I follow you perfectly. Marcus, why are you doing this? Doing what? Speaking to me like I'm impaired. I'm a retired mathematics professor. I taught advanced calculus for 37 years. My mind is perfectly sharp. Why are you treating me like I can't understand normal speech? Mom, you're getting defensive. That's a sign of cognitive decline when people get upset about simple questions. I'm not getting defensive about simple questions. I'm getting frustrated with being treated like I'm mentally incompetent when I'm not. Marcus, I had a comprehensive evaluation. I scored in the 98th percentile. There is no cognitive decline. Evaluations can be wrongs, Mom. I'm your son. I see you regularly. I know you better than any doctor. And there it was. Marcus was positioning himself as more credible than medical professionals. His observations of my supposed decline were more valid than actual cognitive testing. Marcus, I'm going to say this clearly. I am competent. I am not selling my house. I am not giving you control of my finances. Stop spreading lies about my cognitive state. Stop speaking to me like I'm impaired. And stop interfering in my life. Mom, you're confused. Right now you're not understanding. I understand perfectly. Goodbye, Marcus. I hung up, and I added another entry to my documentation. Date, time, and details of Marcus continuing to speak slowly despite being asked to stop. That evening, I did something I'd been avoiding. I looked at Marcus's social media posts. He'd been posting about me publicly, creating a narrative for all his friends and contacts to see. Watching a parent decline is one of the hardest things I've ever experienced. My mother doesn't understand that she's no longer safe living alone. She gets confused easily, can't follow simple conversations, but she refuses to accept help. It's heartbreaking. Had another difficult conversation with Mom today. I have to speak very slowly to her now, or she doesn't follow what I'm saying. She's becoming resistant to any suggestion that she needs support. Classic denial that comes with cognitive decline. Looking at senior living facilities for my mother. She needs a safe environment with professional care, but she's fighting me every step of the way. Anyone else dealt with a parent who refuses to admit they need help. The comments on his posts were sympathetic. "So sorry you're going through this. Stay strong, it's so hard when parents won't accept reality. You're being a good son by looking out for her." Marcus was creating a public record of my supposed decline, building a narrative that would support his claim that I needed someone to take over my affairs. I took screenshots of everything, added them to my growing file of evidence. Then I did something Marcus wouldn't expect. I created my own social media account and posted a response. "I'm Gloria Hayes, Marcus Hayes' mother. I'm 78 years old, a retired mathematics professor, and I'm writing to correct false information that's been shared about me. I'm not experiencing cognitive decline. I recently scored in the 98th percentile on comprehensive neuropsychological testing. I am not confused. I do not need help managing my affairs. My son has been spreading these lies because I refuse to sell my house and give him control of my assets. This is elder financial abuse. I'm sharing this publicly because other elderly people face similar situations and often suffer in silence. You have the right to protect yourself from family members who see you as a source of money rather than as a person deserving respect. Document everything. Get professional evaluations. Seek legal help when necessary. Don't let anyone speak slowly to you as if you're confused when you know you're not." I posted it publicly and tagged Marcus. Within hours, it had dozens of shares and comments. Some people were shocked. I had no idea Marcus was lying about his mother. This is terrible, using social media to defame an elderly parent. But others defended Marcus. His mother is clearly in denial about her decline. This post itself shows confused thinking, lashing out at family who's trying to help. And that division, that uncertainty about who was telling the truth, was exactly what made this situation so dangerous. Marcus was creating enough doubt that some people would believe his version over mine. My phone rang, it was Marcus, and he was furious. "How dare you post that? You made me look like some kind of criminal. Mom, I'm trying to help you and you're destroying my reputation. I'm correcting lies you told about me. Marcus, you posted publicly that I'm confused and can't follow simple conversations. None of that is true. I'm setting the record straight. You're going to regret this. Mom, when you actually need help, when you're actually declining, no one is going to believe you because you've cried wolf. You're destroying your credibility. I have medical documentation of my competence. You have lies and manipulated observations. Marcus, my credibility is based on facts. Yours is based on a false narrative you've been building. We'll see what people believe. Mom, you just made this a lot harder for yourself." He hung up, and I knew he was right about one thing. This had just escalated to a new level. My son spoke slowly, as if I was confused. I let him because I was gathering evidence. But now the battle was public, and Marcus was going to come at me with everything he had. Before I continue this story, kindly subscribe, like, turn on the notification bell, and tell me in the comments where you're watching from. 4 days after I made my public social media post correcting Marcus's lies, I received a certified letter. It was from an attorney named Richard Sterling, and it contained the thing I'd been expecting but hoping wouldn't happen. Marcus had filed a petition for conservatorship. The petition was lengthy and detailed. It claimed I was suffering from progressive cognitive decline, that I was unable to manage my own affairs, that I was in denial about my limitations, and that I was at risk of financial exploitation and self-harm due to impaired judgment. The petition was accompanied by a stack of supporting documents, dozens of screenshots from social media showing Marcus's posts about my supposed decline, along with comments from people expressing concern. A statement from Dr. Patricia Coleman, the geriatric specialist Marcus had hired, saying that based on information provided by family, I appeared to be experiencing cognitive impairment and was resistant to necessary care. There were also sworn statements from people Marcus had convinced to support his petition. His wife Lauren wrote, "I've observed Gloria Hayes over the past 2 years and have noticed significant decline. She repeats herself frequently, seems confused during conversations, and appears unable to make sound decisions. She recently became paranoid about family members trying to help her, which is consistent with dementia-related personality changes. A neighbor I barely knew named Robert Chen wrote, "I've seen Mrs. Hayes wandering in her yard looking confused. She sometimes stands outside for long periods as if she's forgotten why she came out. I'm concerned about her safety." Marcus's friend David Patterson wrote, "Marcus has confided in me about his mother's decline. He's had to speak very slowly to her because she can't follow normal conversation speed. She's become hostile when he suggests she needs help, which is classic denial behavior." Every statement described behaviors and incidents that were either completely fabricated or deliberately misinterpreted. But together, they created a compelling narrative of a woman experiencing severe cognitive decline. The petition requested that Marcus be appointed as my conservator, giving him authority to make decisions about my finances, my health care, where I lived, and every other aspect of my life. I called George immediately. Marcus filed for conservatorship. The petition is full of lies, but it looks convincing if you don't know the truth. Gloria, stay calm. We knew this was coming. We're prepared. I need you to bring me the petition and all supporting documents. We'll file a response and request a full hearing. What happens at the hearing? Both sides present evidence. Marcus will present his case that you're incompetent, will present evidence that you're fully capable. The judge will decide. Gloria, you have strong evidence. Your neuropsychological evaluation, your professional background, testimony from people who actually know you. Will win this. But George, what if we don't? What if somehow the judge believes Marcus? Then Marcus gets legal control over your life and your assets. He can sell your house, move you to that tiny apartment, control all your money. Gloria, if you lose everything. Then I can't lose. Over the next 3 weeks, George and I built our defense. We gathered comprehensive documentation of my competence. My neuropsychological evaluation showing 98th percentile cognitive function. A letter from my physician confirming excellent health and no signs of dementia. Tax returns I'd prepared myself, demonstrating my ability to handle complex financial calculations. Investment statements showing sophisticated portfolio management. A letter from my former department chair at the university attesting to my continued intellectual sharpness. We still met monthly to discuss mathematics. We also prepared testimony from people who knew me well. My colleague, Professor Elena Martinez, would testify that we regularly discussed advanced mathematical concepts and that my reasoning was as sharp as ever. My neighbor Carol Williams would testify that I maintained my home beautifully and managed all my affairs without difficulty. My financial advisor would testify that I made informed, intelligent decisions about investments. And we prepared to debunk every claim Marcus made. The wandering in the yard looking confused. I'd been planning my spring garden, making notes about where to plant what. The repeating herself. I'd reminded Lauren twice about the same thing because she'd forgotten both times. I was following up, not repeating due to memory loss. We also documented Marcus's financial situation and his motive for seeking conservatorship. The $240,000 in debt, the impending foreclosure, the failed business. 3 days before the hearing, something happened that I should have anticipated but still shocked me. I answered my door to find 2 police officers standing there with Marcus and Lauren. "Mrs. Hayes, we received a call expressing concern about your welfare. May we come in?" "What kind of concern?" One officer consulted his notes. "Your son called. He said you've been behaving erratically, that you made threats, and that he's worried you might harm yourself." "That's completely false. Officers, my son is attempting to have me declared incompetent so he can control my assets. This is part of his harassment campaign." Marcus spoke up using that slow, careful voice. "Officers, my mother is confused. She doesn't understand that we're trying to help her." The officers looked at each other, uncertain. "Mrs. Hayes, may we come in and just verify that everything is okay?" I let them in. They walked through my clean, well-organized house. They asked me questions about my daily routine, my health, my safety. Mrs. Hayes, you seem perfectly fine. Can you tell us about these alleged threats? I never made any threats. Officers, my son filed for conservatorship 3 weeks ago. The hearing is in 3 days. He's desperate to build evidence of incompetence, so he's calling in false reports. I showed them the conservatorship petition. I showed them my neuropsychological evaluation. I explained the entire situation. The officer who'd been taking notes looked at Marcus with obvious disapproval. Sir, filing false police reports is a crime. Mrs. Hayes appears to be completely competent and safe. There's no emergency here. But she threatened to hurt herself. I heard her say it. When did I say that, Marcus? On the phone yesterday, you said you wished you were dead. I never said that. Officers, I've been recording my phone conversations with my son because he keeps making false claims. Would you like to hear yesterday's call? I played the recording on my phone. The conversation was brief and mundane. Marcus asking about my health, me saying I was fine, Marcus suggesting I reconsider the conservatorship for my own good, me saying no. There was nothing about wishing I was dead, nothing threatening, nothing that would justify a welfare check. The officers left, apologizing for the intrusion, and I added another incident to my documentation, false police report, date, time, and details. But I was shaken. Marcus was escalating rapidly, making false police reports, trying to create incidents that would support his case that I was unstable or in danger. George filed a motion with the court documenting the false police report and requesting sanctions against Marcus for attempting to manipulate evidence right before the hearing. The conservatorship hearing was held 2 days later. It took place in a courtroom this time, not a conference room, because of the seriousness of the petition and the amount of assets involved. Judge Thomas Warren presided. He was a man in his 60s, known for being thorough and skeptical of conservatorship petitions. Present were Marcus and his attorney Richard Sterling, me and George, and a court-appointed investigator named Dr. Sarah Chen, who'd been assigned to evaluate the situation and make a recommendation. Judge Warren explained the process. This is a hearing to determine whether Mrs. Gloria Hayes requires a conservator. The burden of proof is on the petitioner to demonstrate that Mrs. Hayes is unable to manage her own affairs. Dr. Chen has conducted an independent investigation and will present findings. Let's proceed. Richard Sterling presented Marcus's case. He showed the social media posts where I'd allegedly responded in a confused and paranoid manner. He played recordings where Marcus spoke slowly to me, editing them to make it seem like I needed slow speech to understand rather than showing that Marcus was deliberately talking down to me. He called witnesses who testified about my supposed decline. Lauren went first. Your Honor, I've watched Gloria decline over the past 2 years. She repeats questions. She forgets conversations we've had. She becomes hostile when we try to help. Last month, she accused Marcus of breaking into her house when he was just checking on her welfare. Ms. Hayes, how often do you see Mrs. Hayes? We used to visit weekly, but lately she's been pushing us away, refusing visits, which is another sign of decline. Isolation is common in dementia patients. George cross-examined. Ms. Hayes, you say Gloria repeats questions. Give me a specific example with a date and context. Lauren fumbled. Well, there was one time, I don't remember exactly when, but she asked me something she'd already asked. One incident that you can't date or describe specifically. That's your evidence of memory problems. It happened multiple times. But you can't give me a single specific example with details. I didn't write them down. Ms. Hayes, you wrote a sworn statement for this petition. You had time to document incidents for that, but you can't provide one specific, detailed example of Gloria repeating herself. Lauren looked flustered. She did, I know she did. George moved on. Ms. Hayes, you're aware that your husband Marcus and you are over $240,000 in debt, correct? Objection. Richard Sterling stood. The financial situation of the petitioner is not relevant. It's absolutely relevant, Your Honor. It establishes motive. The petitioner stands to gain control of over $1 million in assets if conservatorship is granted. Judge Warren considered. I'll allow it. Answer the question, Ms. Hayes. We have some debt, but that has nothing to do with $240,000 in debt, facing foreclosure. Your husband's business has failed. You were laid off 8 months ago. Ms. Hayes, if Marcus gains control of his mother's assets, that would solve all your financial problems, wouldn't it? We're not doing this for money. We're trying to help Marcus's mother. Then why did Marcus specifically tell Gloria he wanted to help her manage the money from selling her house? Why not just suggest she hire a professional financial advisor if the concern was proper management? Lauren didn't have an answer. Then Richard Sterling called Marcus to testify. And Marcus, sitting in that witness chair, began speaking in his normal voice, quick, articulate, professional. No slow, careful pronunciation. He was speaking normally because he wasn't trying to manipulate the perception of my competence in this setting. Mr. Hayes, describe your mother's condition. Your Honor, my mother has declined significantly over the past 2 years. She can't follow normal conversations anymore. I have to speak very slowly or she gets confused. She's making poor decisions. She's become paranoid, accusing me of trying to steal from her when I'm just trying to help. She needs professional care in a supervised environment. George stood for cross-examination. Mr. Hayes, you just testified that you have to speak very slowly to your mother or she gets confused. Yet I noticed you're speaking at a normal pace right now. Why is that? Because I'm speaking to you, not to my mother. So you can modulate your speech based on your audience. Mr. Hayes, do you speak slowly to your mother because she needs it, or because you want to create the impression that she needs it? I speak slowly because she can't understand otherwise. Mr. Hayes, I'm going to play a recording from one of your conversations with your mother. This is from 3 weeks ago. George played a recording I'd made. In it, Marcus was speaking slowly and deliberately. I was responding normally, making perfect sense, showing complete comprehension. Then I asked Marcus to speak normally, and he refused, insisting he needed to speak slowly so I would understand. Mr. Hayes, your mother understood you perfectly in that conversation. She asked you to speak normally. You refused. Why? Because she thought she understood, but she didn't. She seemed to comprehend everything you said. She responded appropriately. She followed complex topics. Mr. Hayes, isn't it true that you speak slowly to your mother not because she needs it, but because you want others to think she needs it? That's not true. You've been telling people that you have to speak very slowly to your mother. You've been posting on social media about how she can't follow simple conversations. But the evidence shows she understands perfectly. Mr. Hayes, you've been deliberately creating a false narrative about your mother's competence, haven't you? Marcus's face flushed red. I've been trying to help my mother, and she's fighting me every step of the way because she's too confused to understand she needs help. Or perhaps she understands perfectly well that you want control of her assets, and she's protecting herself from financial exploitation. Then George presented our evidence. He called me to testify first. Mrs. Hayes, you've heard the testimony claiming you're experiencing cognitive decline. What's your response? It's false. I'm completely competent. I scored in the 98th percentile on comprehensive neuropsychological testing 3 weeks ago. I manage complex financial matters. I prepare my own taxes, manage a diversified investment portfolio, handle all aspects of home ownership. I'm a retired mathematics professor. I taught advanced calculus for 37 years. My mind is as sharp now as it was when I was teaching. Mrs. Hayes, your son claims he has to speak slowly to you, or you don't understand. Is that true? No, Marcus started speaking slowly to me about 6 months ago, and I realized he was building a false narrative. He'd speak slowly, then tell others that he had to speak slowly because I couldn't understand normal conversation. But I understood perfectly. I let him continue speaking slowly because I wanted to document what he was doing, creating false evidence of decline. Why would your son do that? Because he wants control of my assets. He and his wife are $240,000 in debt. They're facing foreclosure. Marcus needs money desperately. When I refused to lend him more, I'd already lent him $45,000 he never repaid. He decided to try to gain legal control of my assets through conservatorship. The slow speech, the claims of confusion, the social media posts, all of it was designed to build a case for incompetence that doesn't actually exist. Richard Sterling cross-examined. Mrs. Hayes, isn't it possible that you don't realize you've declined? That you're experiencing what's called anosognosia, lack of awareness of your own deficits? If I were experiencing significant cognitive decline, it would show up on neuropsychological testing. It didn't. I scored in the 98th percentile. Mr. Sterling, I'm a mathematician. I understand statistics. I understand what 98th percentile means. It means I'm functioning better than 98% of people my age. But the doctor who wrote that evaluation, couldn't they have been wrong? Dr. Patricia Rodriguez is a board-certified neuropsychologist with 30 years of experience. She conducted a comprehensive 6-hour evaluation. She tested memory, processing speed, executive function, language, visual spatial skills, and mathematical reasoning. Every domain showed either normal or superior function for my age. The evaluation is objective and thorough. It's not wrong. Then George called our witnesses. Professor Elena Martinez testified. Gloria and I meet monthly to discuss mathematics. We've been working through some interesting problems in topology recently. Her reasoning is impeccable. Her mathematical intuition is as strong as ever. If she were experiencing cognitive decline, I would see it in her ability to engage with complex abstract concepts. I see no decline whatsoever. My physician testified. I've been Dr. Hayes's primary care doctor for 15 years. I see her for annual physicals and occasional minor issues. She's in excellent health. I conduct cognitive screening as part of her annual exam. She scores perfectly every year. There's no medical evidence of dementia or cognitive impairment. My financial advisor testified. Mrs. Hayes manages a portfolio of over $600,000 across various investment accounts. She makes sophisticated decisions about asset allocation, risk management, and tax optimization. She asks intelligent questions. She understands market conditions. She's one of my most financially savvy clients. Finally, Dr. Sarah Chen, the court-appointed investigator, presented her findings. Your Honor, I spent considerable time investigating this case. I interviewed Mrs. Hayes at length. I reviewed her medical records, her financial documents, her professional history. I also reviewed the evidence presented by the petitioner. My conclusion is clear and unambiguous. Mrs. Hayes does not require a conservator. She is fully competent to manage her own affairs. Her cognitive function is excellent, 98th percentile on standardized testing. She manages complex financial matters skillfully. She maintains her home. She has an active intellectual life. She makes sound decisions about her health care and welfare. The evidence presented by the petitioner is either fabricated or deliberately misinterpreted. The claim that she can't follow normal conversations is false. I had extensive conversations with her about complex topics, and she demonstrated excellent comprehension. The social media posts claiming confusion are taken out of context. The witness statements describe normal behaviors that have been reframed as evidence of decline. Furthermore, the petitioner has a clear and substantial financial motive. Mr. Hayes is in severe debt and stands to gain control of over $1 million if conservatorship is granted. This petition appears to be motivated by financial desperation rather than genuine concern for Mrs. Hayes's welfare. I recommend the petition be denied and that Mrs. Hayes continue to manage her own affairs independently. Judge Warren reviewed all the evidence, then looked at Marcus. Mr. Hayes, I've practiced law for 40 years. I've seen many conservatorship cases. This is one of the most clear-cut denials I've encountered. Your mother is obviously competent. The evidence is overwhelming. She has superior cognitive function for her age. She manages complex affairs independently. The witnesses who actually know her well, Her colleagues, her doctors, her financial advisor all confirm her competence. Your evidence, by contrast, is weak and manipulative. You've taken normal behaviors and reframed them as signs of decline. You've created a false narrative through social media and witness statements that don't hold up under scrutiny. What's most concerning is your deliberate attempt to speak slowly to your mother to create the impression she needs slow speech to understand. That's manipulative and frankly disturbing behavior. The petition is denied. Mrs. Hayes will continue to manage her own affairs. Furthermore, I'm ordering you to cease all attempts to interfere in your mother's life. No more false reports. No more claims of incompetence. No more harassment. If you continue, I'll consider sanctions including referral for elder abuse investigation. Mr. Hayes, your mother has made her wishes clear. She doesn't want your help. Respect that. This hearing is concluded. The gavel came down. Marcus stood there, looking devastated, and I felt a wave of relief so strong it almost made me dizzy. I'd won. My son had tried to have me declared incompetent, and I'd defeated his attempt with evidence, documentation, and the truth. As we left the courtroom, Marcus tried to approach me. George stepped between us. Mr. Hayes, the judge was clear. Leave your mother alone. Mom, please, I'm sorry. I made mistakes, but I was just trying to help. You weren't trying to help. You were trying to steal. Marcus, you spoke slowly to me as if I was confused, and I let you because I was gathering evidence. You thought you were building a case against me. You were actually giving me the documentation I needed to defeat you. Mom, I'm your son. Doesn't that mean anything? It used to, but you destroyed that when you decided my money was more important than my dignity. Goodbye, Marcus. I walked past him and out of the courtroom. My son spoke slowly, as if I was confused. I let him. And that decision, to stay quiet, act uncertain, and gather evidence while he thought I didn't understand, had saved me from losing everything. 3 weeks after the conservatorship hearing, I thought the battle was over. Judge Warren had denied Marcus's petition. I'd proven my competence. I'd protected my assets and my independence. But I was wrong. Marcus wasn't done. I received a letter from a different attorney, a woman named Catherine Pierce, who specialized in elder law. The letter informed me that Marcus had filed an appeal of Judge Warren's decision. Dear Mrs. Hayes, please be advised that Marcus Hayes has filed an appeal of the conservatorship denial. The appeal claims that Judge Warren failed to properly consider evidence of your cognitive decline, and that the court-appointed investigator was biased in your favor. The appeal also introduces new evidence that was not presented at the initial hearing. Mr. Hayes has obtained statements from additional witnesses who claim to have observed concerning behavior indicating cognitive impairment. A hearing on the appeal is scheduled for 6 weeks from today. You will need to respond to the new evidence and again defend your competence. Sincerely, Catherine Pierce-esque. I called George immediately, my hands shaking as I held the letter. George, Marcus filed an appeal. He's claiming the judge was wrong and he has new evidence. Can he do this? Can he just keep coming after me forever? He can appeal, but appeals rarely succeed in conservatorship cases, especially when the initial ruling was this clear-cut. Gloria, what's this about new evidence? The letter says he has statements from additional witnesses about my supposed cognitive decline. That's concerning. If he's manufacturing more false evidence, we need to be ready to debunk it. Gloria, send me the appeal documents as soon as you receive them. We'll prepare our response. The appeal documents arrived 4 days later. They were extensive, over 100 pages of new materials Marcus had compiled. The new evidence included a statement from a checkout clerk at my local grocery store claiming I'd seemed confused and disoriented when shopping, that I'd forgotten what I came to buy, and that I'd had trouble counting my money. All completely false. I shop at that grocery store weekly. I use a list. I pay with a credit card. I've never had any interaction with any clerk that would justify this description. A statement from a woman named Patricia Dunn, who claimed to be my close friend, saying she'd noticed significant memory problems over the past year and was very concerned about my welfare. I didn't know anyone named Patricia Dunn. I'd never heard that name in my life. A statement from Marcus's pastor, Reverend James Mitchell, saying that Marcus had confided in him about his mother's decline, and that Marcus was a devoted son trying to do the right thing in a difficult situation. A statement from a doctor named Dr. Alan Foster, who claimed to have observed Mrs. Hayes in a clinical setting, and noted that she appeared confused, had difficulty following instructions, and showed signs consistent with moderate dementia. I'd never been to any doctor named Alan Foster. I'd never heard of him. Most disturbing was a new collection of photographs and videos. Images of me that appeared to show confused or erratic behavior, standing in my driveway looking around uncertainly, walking through my house with papers in my hand appearing lost, sitting in my car in a parking lot with my head in my hands. Each image had a caption describing concerning behavior, but I recognized every single one. They were all taken out of context, deliberately misrepresented. The photo of me, standing in my driveway looking around uncertainly. I'd been watching for the mail carrier because I was expecting an important package. The video of me, walking through my house appearing lost. I'd been organizing tax documents, walking from room to room collecting paperwork from different locations. The image of me, sitting in my car with my head in my hands. I'd received news that morning that an old colleague from the university had died. I was sitting in my car processing grief before driving. Marcus had been surveilling me for months, taking photos and videos of normal activities and captioning them to suggest cognitive problems. George reviewed everything carefully. Gloria, this is worse than I thought. Marcus is submitting fraudulent evidence. These witness statements, some of these people don't even exist or have never met you. The doctor claiming to have examined you, we can verify that's false. And the photos are clearly manipulated through selective captioning. So we expose the lies. Yes, but Gloria, there's something else we need to consider. Marcus is desperate. He's now committed fraud in legal documents, false witness statements, fabricated doctor evaluations. That's a crime. We could refer this to the district attorney for prosecution. You want me to have my son prosecuted? I want you to be protected. Gloria, Marcus isn't going to stop. He's escalating. He's now creating fake evidence, surveilling you, manipulating photographs. This is obsessive behavior driven by financial desperation. You need maximum protection from him. I thought about it for several days. The idea of having Marcus criminally prosecuted felt extreme. But George was right, Marcus was escalating. The false witness statements, the fake doctor evaluation, these weren't just mistakes. They were deliberate fraud. Let's focus on winning the appeal first. If we expose the fraudulent evidence clearly enough, maybe that will finally stop him. Over the next 5 weeks, George and I built our response to the appeal. We obtained statements from the grocery store manager, confirming that no employee named the one who'd written the statement worked there, and that there'd been no incidents involving me. We documented that Patricia Dunn, my supposed close friend, didn't exist in any database we could find. No one by that name lived in our city. Marcus had apparently invented her. We contacted Dr. Alan Foster's medical board and discovered he'd had his license suspended 3 years ago for unethical conduct. More importantly, his office confirmed he'd never treated or evaluated me. Marcus had paid him to write a false evaluation. We prepared explanations for each photograph and video, providing context that Marcus had deliberately omitted. And we did something else. We hired our own investigator to document Marcus's financial situation in detail. What the investigator found was alarming. Marcus and Lauren were now 5 months behind on their mortgage. Foreclosure proceedings had begun. They'd maxed out every credit card, taken out high-interest personal loans, even borrowed from payday lenders. Their total debt had grown to over $280,000. More disturbing, the investigator discovered that Marcus had been telling people he expected to come into money soon. that his mother's estate would solve all his financial problems. He'd been counting on winning conservatorship, selling my assets, and using the money to pay his debts. When that hadn't worked, he'd become more desperate. The appeal wasn't about protecting me. It was about Marcus's last attempt to access my money before losing everything. The appeal hearing was held 6 weeks after I received the initial letter. Judge Patricia Simmons presided, a different judge than the original hearing, which was standard for appeals. Marcus was there with Catherine Pierce. I was there with George. Dr. Sarah Chen, the court-appointed investigator from the first hearing, was also present. Judge Simmons had reviewed all the materials from both the original hearing and the appeal. She started by addressing the new evidence. Ms. Pierce, your client has submitted extensive new evidence that wasn't presented at the original hearing. Why wasn't this evidence available before? Catherine Pierce stood. Your Honor, Mr. Hayes has continued to observe concerning behaviors since the original hearing. The additional witnesses came forward after learning about the situation. The photographic evidence was gathered over time as Mr. Hayes documented his mother's decline. So, to be clear, all of this evidence existed before or during the original hearing, but wasn't presented. Some of it was gathered after the hearing, Your Honor. I see. Mr. Martin, you filed a response challenging the authenticity of this evidence. Please summarize your position. George stood. Your Honor, the new evidence is fraudulent. The grocery store clerk who supposedly observed Mrs. Hayes, that person doesn't work at the store and the store has no record of any incident. The close friend, Patricia Dunn, doesn't exist. We can find no record of any person by that name in this city. The doctor who supposedly evaluated Mrs. Hayes has a suspended medical license, and his office confirms he never examined her. This is fabricated evidence submitted in bad faith. Judge Simmons looked at Catherine Pierce. Ms. Pierce, these are serious allegations. Do you have verification that these witnesses are real and their statements are truthful? Catherine looked uncomfortable. Your Honor, we relied on the information provided by Mr. Hayes. Did you verify any of these statements before submitting them to the court? We trusted that Mr. Hayes was providing accurate information. So you submitted witness statements to an appellate court without verifying their authenticity. Ms. Pierce, that's a serious ethical violation, but we'll address that later. Let's hear from the parties. Catherine called Marcus to testify, but this time Marcus's confidence was gone. He looked tired, stressed, defeated. Mr. Hayes, tell the court about the new evidence you've gathered. Marcus described the photographs, the supposed witnesses, the observations of my decline. But when George cross-examined, everything fell apart. Mr. Hayes, you submitted a statement from a grocery store clerk. What's that person's name? I don't remember the exact name. It was on the statement. The name on the statement was Jennifer Martinez. But Mr. Hayes, the grocery store confirms no one by that name works there. Did you fabricate this statement? No, someone must have told me about the incident. Someone whose name you don't remember, who doesn't work at the store, describing an incident the store has no record of. Mr. Hayes, you made this up, didn't you? I didn't make it up. My mother was confused at the store. What date did this supposedly happen? I don't know the exact date. You don't know the date, you don't know the witness's real identity, and you can't provide any verification. Mr. Hayes, this is a false statement submitted to deceive the court. George continued systematically dismantling each piece of new evidence. The non-existent friend, the doctor with a suspended license who'd never examined me, the photographs that were deliberately misrepresented. Then George played his final card. He introduced evidence of Marcus's financial situation and his statements about expecting to come into money from my estate. Mr. Hayes, you told multiple people you expected to gain control of your mother's assets and use them to pay your debts. Isn't that what this is really about? Not protecting your mother, but accessing her money. Marcus's face crumbled. I'm losing everything. My house, my business, my marriage. My mother has over $1 million and she won't help her own son. She'd rather sit on that money and watch me lose everything than help her family. So this conservatorship petition and this fraudulent appeal are about forcing your mother to give you money she's refused to give voluntarily. She doesn't need all that money. She's 78 years old. What's she going to do with it? I need it now. My family needs it now. Judge Simmons interrupted. Mr. Hayes, your mother's money belongs to her. She earned it. She has the right to keep it or spend it however she chooses. You have no legal claim to her assets just because you're her son. But I'm family. Family should help family. Help is voluntary, Mr. Hayes. Your mother has chosen not to give you more money. That's her right. You can't force her to support you by having her declared incompetent when she's clearly capable. Then George called me to testify. Mrs. Hayes, your son just testified that you won't help him despite his financial problems. What's your response? I've already given Marcus extensive financial help. I paid for his education, 4 years of college with no student loans. I gave him $40,000 as a down payment on his first house. I lent him $45,000 over the past 3 years, which he never repaid. I've helped him repeatedly. But I can't solve his financial problems by giving him access to my entire life savings. Marcus and his wife made choices that created their debt, expensive lifestyle, poor business decisions, living beyond their means. Those are their problems to solve, not mine to fund with my retirement money. Your son claims you don't need your savings because of your age. What do you say to that? I'm 78. I could live another 10 or 15 years. I need that money for my own care, my own security, my own future. Marcus wants me to impoverish myself to make him wealthy. That's not reasonable, and it's not my responsibility. After all testimony was heard, Judge Simmons took a brief recess to review the materials. When she returned, her expression was stern. I've reviewed the original hearing record, the appeal, and today's testimony. This is one of the most clear-cut cases I've seen, and not in the way the appellant hoped. Mrs. Hayes is obviously and demonstrably competent. The original judge was correct. The evidence of her capacity is overwhelming. But what's most troubling is the fraudulent evidence submitted in this appeal. Mr. Hayes has submitted false witness statements, a fabricated medical evaluation, and deliberately misrepresented photographs. This is not just wrong, it's potentially criminal. The appeal is denied. Mrs. Hayes will continue to manage her own affairs. Furthermore, I'm issuing a permanent injunction prohibiting Mr. Hayes from filing any future conservatorship petitions without first obtaining court permission and providing substantial medical evidence from independent, qualified professionals. Mr. Hayes, you've wasted this court's time twice with baseless petitions. There won't be a third time. I'm also referring this matter to the district attorney for investigation of possible fraud and elder abuse charges. Mr. Hayes, submitting false evidence to a court is a serious crime. Finally, I'm ordering Mr. Hayes to pay Mrs. Hayes's attorney fees for both the original hearing and this appeal. The total amount will be determined by Mr. Martin's submission of his fees. Mr. Hayes, your mother has made her position clear. She's competent, she's capable, and she doesn't want your interference. Leave her alone. If you contact her, harass her, or make any further attempts to control her life or assets, you will face serious consequences, including possible jail time. Do you understand? Marcus nodded, looking broken. This matter is concluded. Mrs. Hayes, you're free to live your life as you see fit. The gavel came down, and finally, it was over. As we left the courtroom, Marcus didn't try to approach me. He just stood there with Catherine Pierce, looking at the floor, defeated. I felt no triumph, just sadness and relief. In the weeks that followed, several things happened. The district attorney's office contacted me about pressing charges against Marcus for fraud and elder abuse. I had to make a difficult decision. If we prosecute, Marcus could face prison time, the prosecutor told me. The evidence is strong, false statements submitted to the court, fabricated medical evaluations, systematic fraud. We could get a conviction. What happens if I don't press charges? He still faces consequences. The court ordered him to pay your attorney fees. That's over $35,000. The permanent injunction means he can't harass you anymore. And he has the court finding that he submitted fraudulent evidence, which will make it impossible for him to ever pursue conservatorship again. I thought about it carefully, then I made my decision. I don't want him prosecuted. He's lost enough. His attempt to control my assets failed. He owes me $35,000 in attorney fees. He's still facing foreclosure and bankruptcy. Sending him to prison won't help anyone. But I want the investigation to remain open. If he violates the court order or tries to harass me again, then prosecute him. The threat of prosecution will keep him away better than actually prosecuting him now. The prosecutor agreed to keep the case open, but suspend prosecution as long as Marcus complied with all court orders. Marcus and Lauren's house went into foreclosure 3 months after the appeal was denied. They declared bankruptcy. They moved to a small rental apartment. Marcus got a job working retail, a massive step down from his previous business consulting work, but it was employment. I heard all this through mutual acquaintances, not from Marcus directly. He never contacted me again. The court order and the threat of prosecution kept him away. 6 months after the final hearing, I received a letter. It was from Marcus, sent through George to avoid violating the no-contact order. The letter was long and emotional. Mom, I'm writing this knowing you may not read it, and if you do, you probably won't respond. But I need to say these things. I destroyed our relationship. I tried to steal your independence and your money. I lied about you to doctors, lawyers, friends, family, and the court. I created false evidence. I spoke to you like you were impaired when you weren't. I treated you like an obstacle instead of like my mother. I did all of this because I was drowning financially, and I saw your money as my life raft. I convinced myself I was entitled to it because I'm your son. I convinced myself you didn't need it because of your age. I convinced myself I was helping you by taking control of your life. But I was lying to myself. I wasn't helping you. I was trying to rob you. Losing the conservatorship case destroyed me financially. The attorney fees, the bankruptcy, losing the house, it was all devastating. But it taught me something I should have learned years ago. I'm not entitled to other people's money just because I want it or need it. Not even my mother's money. I created my financial problems through my own choices. I lived beyond my means. I made bad business decisions. I borrowed money I couldn't repay. Those problems were mine to solve, not yours to fund with your retirement savings. I've spent the past 6 months in therapy, working on understanding how I became someone who would try to steal from his own mother. What I've learned is that I stopped seeing you as a person. I saw you as an asset, a source of money, an obstacle between me and financial relief. I forgot that you worked 37 years for that money. I forgot that you raised me alone after Dad died. I forgot that you'd already given me so much: education, down payment on a house, $45,000 in loans. I forgot everything except my own desperation. When I spoke slowly to you, as if you were confused, I was trying to create evidence of incompetence. But you knew exactly what I was doing. You let me think my manipulation was working while you gathered evidence against me. You were several steps ahead the entire time. You taught me a lesson I'll never forget. Underestimating someone because of their age is a catastrophic mistake. You were smarter, more strategic, and more capable than I ever gave you credit for. I'm not asking for forgiveness. I'm not asking for a relationship. I've accepted that I destroyed those things beyond repair. I'm just asking you to know that I finally understand what I did, and I'm sorry. I hope you're well. I hope you're still in your beautiful house, still managing your own life, still strong and independent. You were right to fight back. You were right to protect yourself from me. You were right to let me speak slowly while you planned your defense. Thank you for teaching me accountability through consequences. And thank you for showing other elderly people, through your fight, that they can protect themselves from family members who see them as sources of money rather than as people deserving respect. With regret and respect, Marcus. I read the letter 3 times. It was the first time Marcus had taken full responsibility without excuses or justification. The first time he'd acknowledged what he'd really done and why it was wrong. I wrote a brief response, sent through George. Marcus, I received your letter. I appreciate that you've taken responsibility for your actions. I'm not ready for a relationship with you. The trust is broken, and I don't know if it can be rebuilt, but I acknowledge your accountability. I am well. I'm still in my house. I'm still managing my own affairs. And I've used my experience to help other elderly people facing what I faced, adult children trying to take control of their lives and assets. I've started speaking at senior centers about financial exploitation. I run a support group for elderly people dealing with family members who see them as sources of money. I help people document their competence and seek legal protection. I've helped dozens of people protect themselves. Your attempt to have me declared incompetent failed, but it gave me a purpose. I'm now an advocate for elder independence and protection. When you spoke slowly to me, as if I was confused, I let you. That decision to stay quiet, gather evidence, and prepare my defense, that decision saved me. And now I teach others to do the same. I hope you've truly learned from this experience. I hope you understand that elderly people aren't helpless or confused just because we're old. We're capable, we're sharp, we're strategic, and we deserve respect. You saw my age and assumed weakness. You assumed I wouldn't understand what you were doing or wouldn't be able to fight back. You were wrong about all of it. Take care of yourself, Marcus. Learn from your mistakes, and don't make them again with anyone else. Constance. Now, at 79 years old, I still live in my house. The house Marcus wanted me to sell. I still manage my own finances, the $620,000 in savings Marcus wanted to control. I still make my own decisions about every aspect of my life. I run my support group, which has grown to 40 regular members. I speak at senior centers monthly. I consult with elder law attorneys on cases involving family financial exploitation. I've become a voice for elderly people facing adult children who speak slowly to them as if they're confused when they're not. And I tell my story. The story of a son who thought his elderly mother would be easy to manipulate, who thought a 78-year-old retired mathematics professor wouldn't understand what he was doing, who spoke slowly to her as if she was confused, thinking it would build evidence of incompetence. But I understood everything, and I let him continue his manipulation while I gathered evidence, documented his fraud, and prepared my defense. My son spoke slowly, as if I was confused. I let him, because letting someone underestimate you is sometimes the smartest strategy. Marcus thought speaking slowly to me made him look like a concerned son dealing with a declining mother. Instead, it revealed him as a manipulative adult child trying to steal from an elderly parent. He thought I was too confused to understand what he was doing. I understood perfectly. I was a mathematics professor. My entire career was built on seeing patterns, recognizing when something doesn't add up, solving complex problems. Marcus's slow speech didn't add up. His sudden concern about my age didn't add up. His focus on my house and assets didn't add up. So I investigated. I documented. I prepared. And when he finally made his move with the conservatorship petition, I was ready. I had cognitive evaluations proving my competence. I had legal documents protecting my assets. I had evidence of his financial desperation and his motive. I had recordings of him speaking slowly when I'd asked him to stop. I had documentation of every lie he told. My son spoke slowly, as if I was confused. I let him. And that calm, strategic patience, that willingness to be underestimated while gathering evidence, saved my independence, my assets, and my dignity. I still teach this lesson to every elderly person I meet. If someone starts treating you like you're confused when you're not, if someone speaks to you slowly as if you can't understand normal conversation, if someone suggests you're no longer capable of managing your own affairs, don't get angry. Don't argue. Document. Record conversations. Keep journals. Get professional evaluations proving your competence. seek legal protection, and stay calm while you build your case. Let them underestimate you. Let them think their manipulation is working, and use that time to prepare a response they'll never see coming. My son spoke slowly, as if I was confused. I let him. And that decision changed everything, from being a potential victim to being a fighter, from someone targeted for exploitation to someone who helps others protect themselves. I'm still here, still sharp, still independent, still very much in control of my own life. And every time I speak at a senior center or counsel someone in my support group, I remember that moment in my kitchen when Marcus first spoke slowly to me. That moment when I realized what he was doing and made the strategic decision to let him think it was working. That smile I gave him, that calm, knowing smile, meant, I understand exactly what you're doing. I'm several steps ahead of you, and you're about to learn an expensive lesson about underestimating elderly women. I was right. He learned, and I'm still teaching that lesson to anyone who needs to hear it. My son spoke slowly, as if I was confused. I let him, and I won. If this story touched you, please subscribe, like, and turn on the notification bell for more emotional stories like this. Tell me in the comments where you're watching from. Somewhere out there, I might be reading.